In this episode, we speak with Al Goldstein, the co-founder and executive chairman of Avant, which provides financial institutions with a range of products and services designed to deliver a seamless digital and mobile customer experience. In 2016, Al founded Avant to build software that re-engineers consumer, small business, and embedded finance solutions to make banking simpler, safer, and more convenient for today's digital-first customers. Al Goldstein has an extensive work background in various industries. Prior to Avant, he co-founded Pangea Properties and Avant. He is also currently the co-founder, CEO, and chairman at StoicLane. I am your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
Al, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Thanks, RJ. Thanks for having me.
So when I look at your background and your track record in starting companies, you look like a natural, meaning like you graduate in 2002, you do a few years in investment banking, and then you quickly start into your first company. I guess the question is, did it come natural to you? Did you know you wanted to start a company like pretty early on in life?
Well, I think I've learned over the years that if you're building a startup from the outside, it always looks like it's great, it's glorious, and if it works, it's all up and to the right. The reality is it's pretty messy when you're inside, and I don't think there's a clear plan. At least I didn't have one. We all try to create stories afterwards and narratives, but the reality is I probably was always kind of like one of those kids that had problems with authority. So my poor parents. I wanted to try to make the finance career work. I started investment banking. I was thinking about private equity and hedge funds. But I pretty quickly realized that I wanted to go and do something different and had a chance to do it because a mentor of mine, someone I worked for as an intern, who's 17 years older than me, still one of my closest friends, basically convinced me to quit banking and go try to do this thing with him when I was 23. And then I got hooked. And so I fell in love with this idea of trying to build a company from scratch and trying to create something that just wasn't there before.
And when you started that first company, you co-founded it with a person much senior to you. Was your role in that truly as the executive, as a CEO, being in charge of the whole operation?
Yeah, so the way it worked out is my partner, my co-founder, David Shore, is this great guy, and he's still at it building companies today. He basically gave me this amazing line that I don't know where he got from or made up, and because I was in banking, I was making pretty good money, working too much. But he basically said, I want to put you in a position to benefit from your own hard work. And then the fine print was take no salary, work hours that are almost as crazy and give your life up for this thing, which is just part of what it takes to make something successful. But so him and I had this partnership where he was chairman. He had a bit of the Rolodex. He provided his own capital. And he basically told me on the front end that he was willing to put up $1 million of his own capital to go build this business. And in my warped 23-year-old head from, at this point, I guess 20 plus years ago, I was like, $1 million? What can't you do with $1 million? And ultimately, we raised a little bit more money. My brother joined us as the third partner, and my background is finance and math. My brother's background is computer science. So he sort of built the tech. I did the business side, build the credit models. We were in the credit business. And David really provided the guidance, strategic vision, and the gray hair, which I now provide. So, and it worked great. It kind of just happened to work out.
So he saw something in you which gave him the confidence to say, like, you take charge of this, I'm going to fund it. But obviously, he had enough conviction that you'd be able to make it work.
I think there's something to his ability to see, hopefully a little bit of talent and a lot of ambition. And I've tried to emulate that, quite honestly. I now co-founded a number of business with former interns of mine following the same strategy, and it's worked amazingly well. What you can do, the hours you can work, kind of the technical skills that you can exhibit when you're 23, 24, 25 years old are just different than what I could do today at 43. And so you need that balance. And I think he understood that. And I've learned from that.
So you go on to found, I think it's now like five other companies. You seemingly have success after success. Do you have a formula for determining which market to go into or which product or type of solution that you want to provide? Is there some quick math you do in your head like, oh yeah, this is a good idea?
Yeah, well, I smile a little bit because the success to success, kind of line, it reminds me of one of my favorite Churchill lines. Success is going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. I think it's a little bit back to that earlier point that I was trying to make, which is I think if you have a long-term time frame and you have enough capital and you have great people and you're unwilling to quit, you can get to a successful outcome, hopefully. And
Mhm.
that's what we tried to do. And there wasn't really a clear plan from the start. Whereas I started a company when I was 23. We were lucky to build something great. We had some amazing people and we sold that business. That company, and I've been gone from that business since 2008. That company continues to grow and it's a very successful public company. So I've gotten to watch it continue to compound, build on the foundation that we created. So that's been fun to watch. And then I started another business to buy real estate, distressed real estate in 2009, which was the financial crisis. It happened to be really good timing. We had kind of a crazy idea, not having any real estate background, but we didn't have any baggage either. So we came in with good timing and we executed really well. Thankfully, we were able to pull the capital together that needed to come together. And it's been a great outcome. And what I'm doing today, and I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit, is really the last company I ever want to build.
Mhm.
And that's why I tell my investors. My wife seems to almost believe it at this point. But to me, I'm a huge fan of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger and what they've done with Berkshire and Constellation Software and Liberty Media and Danaher. And the idea that if you have a long-term time horizon and you have a great team of people that you can assemble, then you can create lots and lots of value over time. Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. And that's what we do at StoicLane. We have a long-term time horizon. We invest in verticals that we feel like we understand pretty well
Mhm.
and ultimately try to compound value over an extended period.
And are you going to be involved operationally in the companies you own?
Yes, so I'll tell you a little bit about StoicLane. So
Sure.
we're a holding company and we have really two core ideas. So our ideas around the background that I have, which is real estate and financial services. So we have real estate services and we have what we call financial solutions. Financial solutions is basically serving small businesses across a variety of dimensions. And typically what we do is we buy small operating companies and we aggregate them to create larger platforms and then try to use technology and systems and better process to make those companies better, make
Mhm.
them grow over time, but at the same time, try to incentivize the owners that sold to us to stay involved as long as they can. And
Mhm.
typically they're selling to us because they're looking to retire, step back from the business. But so far, of the 40 acquisitions that we've done, 35 of the sellers are still with us. And so that's really exciting. So that's working. And our verticals are basically vacation rental property management. We've built a platform that is the second largest operator of vacation rental homes in the US. We think it's the most profitable platform and really excited about that vertical. We have a platform in real estate valuation and appraisal that we've assembled 8 smaller companies into one of the top appraisal companies, valuation companies in the US. And then what we're doing today is really focusing on that small business sector is we're aggregating a national platform of accounting services as well as PEO, which is payroll and benefits.
Mhm.
It's pretty focused with a long-term view. And so I'm CEO of the business and we have leaders for each unit. But to answer your question in a very roundabout way, pretty involved in everything.
That's fantastic. And the vacation rental, obviously a lot of people know about this market. Either they stay at Airbnbs or they own property, rent them out themselves. Can you tell us what the platform is and a certain segment of the market?
No, for sure. Again, it's a business that's gone mainstream with COVID. People kind of traveled around. I've gotten really excited about the vertical really over, I would say, the last 7 or 8 years as my kids have gotten a little bit older. We've traveled all over the world staying in vacation homes and Airbnbs.
Mhm.
And Airbnb itself or VRBO, HomeAway, they're the market engine. They're the marketplaces. They themselves don't manage the homes. And so typically you would rent the home from a homeowner that's kind of just taking care of their own property or their own condo or their own home, or a professional manager. And the professional management industry has been around for a long time.
Mhm.
And so typically, if you go to a market like Lake Tahoe,
Mhm.
There might be two or three really high-end luxury managers. There might be two or three mid-level managers. And what we've done is we've acquired 24 of those kind of professional managers around the country. And we have a brand that sits over at the top. We call it the Monarch Collective. And the reason it's a collective is we really try to preserve the local brands and the local differentiation of those businesses, but empower them with centralized purchasing and centralized technology support. And so if you go to Lake Tahoe, you might stay at Tahoe Getaways, which is one of our brands, or R&R. If you go to the Florida Panhandle, you might stay at Best Beach or Benchmark. And in the Blue Ridge Mountains, you might stay with one of our properties, but together it's the Monarch Collective. And the idea is to make your experience as someone that stays there phenomenal, and to make your experience as a homeowner that entrusts your home to us to be one where you know that every time you stay there yourself, it's going to be really clean, it's going to be well taken care of, you're not going to have any issues. To know that anyone that stays at your home is going to be safe. If they lock themselves out, they have any sort of mechanical issue, we're going to be there really quickly.
Mhm.
And every month you're going to get a check.
Mhm.
And so we're going to help you optimize the cash flow, the carry cost of your home when you're not using it.
You seem to have the DNA of a classic entrepreneur in that you're able to quickly think about attractive markets to go into and begin executing. Do you have a team that has been with you where you know it gives you the confidence? We can do this and we can do it fast. Let's sketch it out. You do this, you do that. When people already, maybe they already know their roles and you're off and running. Is that the case?
The reality is, I think teams is what drives success. And like I said, I've had a lot of success in working with amazing people multiple times over. And so if you look at StoicLane, we have three partners, three co-founders. My partner, Matt Ferrand, who's our president, who's in charge of all the operational activity, I've known for 25 years at this point, since college. And we tried starting a number of businesses together. And this is the one that really got both of us excited. And we're really excited to work together for the next 20 plus years. And then my other partner, Jake Nice, she worked for my prior company, Avant. And Jake runs the finance side of our organization, oversees the valuation appraisal business. And Jake is one of those phenomenal young talents that started working at Avant when he was a year out of school and worked his way up really quickly, ended up leaving and going to the investment side as a venture investor. And then him and I have always talked about bringing it back together. And we have a nice bench of people. So the CEOs that run our businesses largely are people that we've worked with in the past. So it's that kind of ability to say, okay, we work together, we know what the expectations are, we're excited to build this. And then can we solidify the team and make sure that the team is phenomenal? And so the CEO of our vacation rental business is someone that was my former intern. Like I was saying, we worked together across a few different businesses. He's phenomenal. The CEO of our payroll and benefits business was someone that worked with my partner, Matt Ferrand, over the course of many, many years and built a very, very large business together. The CEO of our accounting national roll-up strategy was someone that actually ran the M&A and the deal side of our opportunity from the very beginning, who I've known for over 10 years, who ultimately decided he wanted to go run that platform. And so it's pretty organic, but never easy.
Right. Now, the impetus for this conversation was Amount. Maybe tell us about your other roles outside of StoicLane, and then we'll talk about Amount.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So again, we started talking about it. So my first company was a company called Enova, which is now public. So that's the one I have no involvement in because we sold that business and it's continued to do great. And it's been fun to watch it from the sidelines. I wish we still own some of it because it's compounded in value over many, many years. We then started a company called Pangea Properties to buy real estate in 2009. I'm still chairman of Pangea. We've sold now most of our portfolio, but we have some legacy assets. And so that's a real estate company that owned a big portfolio of real estate assets. Then I got together with a couple of former interns of mine in 2013 to start Avant, which is a very large, one of the leading consumer credit businesses focused on the middle income consumer space. And that's where Amount was born. So we started Avant in 2013. In 2016 or 17, we realized that we were building the same technology that would be useful for banks. And we ultimately productized that technology, and that became Amount. So we ended up splitting the business in 2020. And at that time, I was CEO of the combined company. When we split the company in 2020, right before COVID, it was kind of February of 2020, my two key lieutenants and partners became CEOs of their respective businesses. And so as that happened, I became chairman of the two companies. So I'm still chairman of Avant and Amount and Pangea, but really supporting these great leaders that we've worked together for many, many years. And StoicLane is where I spent the bulk of my time and my energy.
So we'll dive into amount, but one thing I've noticed with this pattern that you have of working with people and putting them into leadership positions, are you able to identify this talent early on, like they're interns? And so presumably you see something in them while you're going through the pool of intern candidates. Do you look for certain characteristics?
I just think it kind of happens organically over time. I think it's really hard to interview for talent and ambition at the same time for loyalty and continuity. And so to me, it's you've got to create roles that are going to try to create positive selection and filter for people that are going to fit all those categories. But ultimately, let the best people rise up. And not everyone's going to want to stay around. There are a lot of people that are going to want to leave and go do other stuff. And I'm a huge fan of supporting that. That's been my experience. When I was at Deutsche Bank, a lot of my early investors were my former mentors at Deutsche Bank. And so I'm a huge fan of that. And so if you want to go do your own thing, I'd love to help any way I can.
Hmm.
But we really try to create a meritocracy, an environment where the best people rise up quickly and they really get lots of opportunity earlier in their career than they would otherwise. And hopefully they swim. And if they do, we're going to keep throwing more stuff at them. And if they want to do more, they're going to get that chance.
As a child, were you exposed to entrepreneurship? Was it kind of infused in you that that's the right path to go? Or was this just kind of an innate feeling like this is what I should be doing?
So I'm an immigrant kid, and I was born in the former Soviet Union, where really entrepreneurship was not allowed. It wasn't a thing. But at the same time, there was a lot of entrepreneurship going on, where in order to survive and to make ends meet, everyone had to have a side business and a side hustle. My dad had a side business. He was an engineer. He was helping college students with blueprints and whatnot. And I got to see that as a little kid.
Hmm.
But the reality is, as an immigrant kid, when you come to the US, you come for opportunity. And I think that's still true, despite some of the challenges that are true in this country. And so I always kind of like saw the beauty of the opportunity that we have. But I wasn't one of those kids that, started 18 businesses by the time they were 18 years old. I spent my childhood playing sports and having fun and running around. But I kind of made the joke that I had always had issues with authority. And so I had a bunch of different jobs growing up. I never
Hmm.
held any of them for very long. It just wasn't my thing. And my parents were really worried about that. The very traditional immigrant parents, doctor and an engineer. So to me, I think that was one of my core issues. I wanted to succeed quickly. And then my brother, who's 5 years older, actually went to Silicon Valley in 1997 and got to see the dot-com rise and fall very personally. And so to me, I think that probably is what inspired my interest in entrepreneurship, is just having seen it, how crazy it got very quickly. And at the same time, I graduated from college in 2002.
Hmm.
So maybe dating myself a little bit, this was after the dot-com bubble crashed, after 9/11, in a challenging economic period, recessionary period. And so to me, I think very quickly it became evident that if you want to jump ahead quickly, you have to try to do your own thing.
Hmm.
And thankfully, I got a unique opportunity to go do that.
Now, as we were talking about earlier, teams are integral to doing well and succeeding in business. This whole people side of the business, maybe like what's known as the soft skills, but you clearly have that. Is that something that came natural to you, or did you work at it? How were you able to kind of like fine tune your kind of people skills?
Yeah, I don't know if I really have that or not, but to me, I think like I said, I spent most of my childhood playing sports and playing competitive sports, and I kind of think to me that is a great way to learn. I don't know, people skills, soft skills, but really how to work as a team, work on a team, lead a team, and be in a position where you can handle losing and you like to win, but you can handle losing. You connect the dots on what it takes to actually be successful, which is hard work mostly, because talent can only get you so far.
Hmm.
And so that's actually what I tell my kids. And they're growing up in a very different environment without some of the immigrant challenges and the chip on the shoulder, maybe that breeds. But I
Hmm.
think competitive sports for me was such a catalyst. And a lot of the folks I work with came up that same way. In different sports, team sports, individual sports. And it doesn't have to be sports, it could be other competitive endeavors. But I think that's what the entrepreneurship choice really is. It's we're competing for that chance to be successful. And most companies fail. Most
Hmm.
companies don't succeed. How do
Hmm.
you make sure that you have the most opportunity to actually be successful?
We talked about your series of successes. Would you be able to share with us maybe one of your failures?
Oh yeah, no, I've had many. Like I was saying, it's the story is only told at the finish line, and so Avant's a company that we started in 2013, and it's been a journey. It's been a challenging market in that the first time we went into online lending, there really wasn't that much capital in the space. There wasn't a lot of sophisticated competition. And when we launched Avant, there were billions of dollars of venture capital going into digital lending, consumer lending. And then it all looked great until 2016, when you had a blip in the Chinese market, securitization markets. All of a sudden, pretty much all of the founder CEOs in the category, across a bunch of companies that were worth billions of dollars, got fired or left in a very short period of time. And I used to joke that I was the tallest midget. I was still there. Most of the teams turned over. There were lots of challenges. I think you had 300 or 400 online lending companies, startups at that time in the space. Most of them went away. Most of them disappeared. We were able to keep our team together, keep our investors together. And I think largely as a function of that team dynamic, that cohesiveness, and we persevered. And we're still fighting through that. Time will tell. We haven't gone to a liquidity event or the public markets yet. Avant's a great business. It's pretty much, kind of at a sustainable point now. Amount is there too. Amount is a 6 or 7 year old company. It's kind of like breaking through that point where, to me, it's sustainable profitability is the goal. It's how do you get the company to the point where it's growing organically and sustainably generating its own capital, doesn't need external capital. And it just takes time. So I think success is something you look back on and then you can judge. Hopefully we'll get there.
We're entering the tail end of the conversation, but before I do the last two questions, can you tell us what drives you?
Yeah, I think it's evolved, honestly. So as I was saying, now that I'm 43 and my kids kind of doing a million different activities, doing their own thing, I think my motivation is a bit different than it was when I was 23. And I think when I was 23, I was saying, I just had this idea that land of opportunity, how do we create value? How do we create jobs? How do we build something? And now that I've seen that, I think at this point in my life, I really like just being surrounded by these young, smart, hungry people. But I think what gives me that hunger is watching that younger generation succeed and watching them grow in their careers. And I kind of feel like it keeps me in the game, and they're just so smart. The tech is different. Your technical skills atrophy if you don't use them. But to me, just staying engaged and learning and constantly trying to improve the core skill that we're trying to develop, which is how do you invest correctly? How do you build great companies? How do you try to avoid pitfalls? I get so excited about that. And then also, ideally, my kids are watching some of that experience and they're going to be productive. And it doesn't mean they're going to be entrepreneurs, but they're going to learn from that. They're going to be hopefully productive members of society, and time will tell.
Excellent. Okay, last two questions. Can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
Yeah, well, we started the conversation with my close friend and mentor, David Shore. And by the way, I should say I've been very fortunate. I've had amazing mentors, and I think it's really, really important. And I've always tried to seek out mentors. But I think David, for me, really set me on this path of entrepreneurship. And now we have a very different relationship in that we're really close friends. I first met him when I was 19 years old or 20 years old, and he was 17 years older. It's, really, really kind of like a father figure relationship. I think today it's much more of an older brother type of relationship. And, I've gotten to see his kids grow up. He's gotten to see my kids grow up, and he's still in the game. He's building this great company with some of our former people, former employees. And it's been a phenomenal relationship. And I hope I can be that for a lot of people.
Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
I really have two that I get really excited about. One is actually what we do, which is entrepreneurship and creating an environment that fosters entrepreneurship, because I think that's what really makes the US different and what makes it shine. And a big part of that is, how do you get the smartest, most talented people to come to America, to stay, to build jobs, to create value? And then the other is actually because I grew up in the former Soviet Union. Most of my family went to Israel. I came to the US. And I spent a lot of time trying to help Israel, there are a lot of challenges. It's an interesting time. People have lots of different opinions. But for me, the Israel and US relationship is so strong for both sides and so strong for long-term world prosperity. And so I actually spent a huge amount of my time and resources on that.
Wonderful. Well, Al, I want to thank you again for taking the time to chat with us today. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much.